grandma and grandpa were married for more than 60 years. Their names were Joseph and Mary, and they had 10 kids. They had a beautiful marriage, and they would flirt with each other constantly. I grew up watching this. I remember as a boy seeing my grandpa come up to my grandma in the kitchen. He kind of whap and he hits her in the thigh, and he says, "Hi, my name's Joe." And she looks at him and she's like, "I know." I'm like, oh, they're 100 and they're flirting. I love it. And when she passed away 2 years ago, I was there at the funeral right by the side of my grandpa. And just before they closed the casket, he stood beside me, and he's real weak, he's hip and knee replacements, and he leans over the casket and he's shaking, and he kind of leans over, he just gives her a kiss on the nose, and he said, "Bye, babe." And I saw that and I just said, that's it. That's what I want. I want a love that's stronger than death. But how do we get there from here? How do we get a marriage like that? We got to begin by understanding what marriage is. According to the church, the marriage is a total gift of yourself. Look at the wedding vows. You promise that this love that you're giving is a free love. It is a total love. You hold nothing back from one another. It is a faithful love, not just with your body, but even with your imagination and your heart. And it's a fruitful love that's open to the gift of life. And if you think about this is not an imposition of the church onto us. This is the very cry of our hearts for authentic human love. And so if that's the essence of marriage, what's the purpose of marriage? The purpose of marriage is for the procreation and the education of our children. That's where we get the word matrimony from, the duty of the mother. So part of the purpose of marriage is for the raising of children. The other purpose of marriage is for the mutual perfection and sanctification of the spouses. Because when you get married, your faults rise to the surface like oil in water, so that you can be sanctified and grow in holiness. Now, if you think that the purpose of marriage is your personal happiness, well, I hope your marriage is happy, but honestly, that's not the purpose. Because if you think that that's the purpose, and it starts getting rough and tough and difficult, and all your faults come to the surface, well, that's when a lot of people bail out. But this is not God's plan for authentic human love. It's going to require us to die to ourselves. I remember on our wedding day, there's a little boy sitting in the back of the church, and he's soaking in all the ceremony and liturgy. And he says to his dad, "Now, Dad, why is Kristalina there, my wife? Why is she wearing all white?" And he said, "Oh, because today is the happiest day of her life, and she's just radiant." The kid said, "Okay." "Well then, Dad," he said, "how come Jason's wearing all black?" And he kind of had a laugh, but there's something to this, that the black often in liturgy means death, that we need to die to ourselves for the love of our beloved. We've got to image Christ's love for his church. This is out of St. Paul's writing in Ephesians 5. He said, "A man shall leave his father and his mother, cleave to his wife, and the two of them shall become one flesh." We're supposed to be an image of Christ's love for the church. I knew of one groom on the day of his wedding. If you've ever been to a wedding reception, you're probably familiar with the custom where the bride sits down, the whole bridal party comes around her, and the groom kneels down in front of her, and he kind of starts to pull up her dress, and he pulls down off her leg the garter, which is a fabric around her thigh, and then he just throws it to a bunch of slobbering single guys who fight over it. Now, he didn't think that'd be the best way to introduce his bride to the family. So what he did is he had his bride sit down, and the whole wedding party came around. And he kneeled down in front of her, and then he pulled off her shoe, and then he pulled up a pitcher of water with a bowl, and he washed her feet in front of everybody, as Christ washed the feet of his bride, the church, on the night before he gave his life for her on the cross. And this groom was not putting on a show. This is literally how he thought his bride deserved to be served, as Christ loved the church. Now you might think, well, that's great, Jason, but I'm sorry, that is not the image I see of marriage at home. Husbands and wives dying to themselves for love of one another. And honestly, a broken image of marriage might be all that you've ever seen at home. But I promise you, in the beginning, it was not so. When God created Adam and Eve, their bodies, their naked bodies, were a sign of an invitation to the other to love them in a way that was free, total, faithful, and life-giving. And through this love, to become a visible image of God's love itself on earth. And this is not imposing religion on sex and marriage. This is God's original plan. We're made in the image and likeness of a God who is love. So if you've ever wondered why you just long for love, it's because you're made in the image and likeness of God, and God is love, and nothing less will satisfy you. Lust will never satisfy you. All the pleasures of the world, nothing will satisfy you as much as authentic human sacrificial love. So by the end of this program, we hope to be able to show you how you can save your marriage before even meeting your spouse.